You've taken a wrong turn down Creep Street.
Citizens of the Milky Way, my name is Dylan Hackworth.
I'm Maureen Bogey.
And this is Creep Street. As always, up top, please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, and all of the fun things. But listen, there's something else I want to talk about. Have you ever thought, man, I love the Creep Street podcast, but I'd like a little bit more?
Wait. Yeah.
You thought about this?
A lot.
Well, guess what? The opportunity for more is now here.
Go on.
We have started a Patreon. That's right. www.patreon.com/Creep Street Podcast.
Yep.
If you would like to support this show, there's some goodies in it for you. We have 3 tiers. I'll just go over them quickly. There's the $2 tier. It's a $2 a month donation. You will get a one-time shout out on the show, plus access to the Patreon community. For $5 a month, you get all of that, plus a bonus ad-free episode once a month where Maureen and I kind of let our hair down. We get a little boozy. We talk about weird things and we laugh and we say horrible, disgusting things.
Yeah. Horrible.
If you want even more, well, then there's a $10 monthly donation in which you get a shout out every show. You get that ad-free bonus episode, and on top of that, monthly, you will get a special watch-along movie commentary with Maureen and I. It'll be like we're sitting in there watching a movie together.
The value is just too great.
Well, you know what? Why don't we ask our 2 Patreon supporters that support us at the $10 range? A Mr., I call him the Dream, James Watkins, out of the UK.
Woo!
And coming out of Scandinavia, the Finnish face, online known as Uncle K-Fape. It is the one, the only, Via Alongvist.
Wow. Okay.
I know I said it wrong, but I'm going to get it right because I'm going to be saying this name every episode now.
For the rest of your life.
He is a $10 donator.
Yeah.
Same with James Watkins. I gotta get used to saying. I'm gonna be saying that name a lot, and you know what? I'm happy about it. These guys are gonna be enjoying a sweet bonus episode every month, along with movie commentary.
That's right.
If you want to join them, that's all you got to do. Go to Patreon.com. But listen, just so you know, if you can't donate or you don't want to, that's totally fine. Just so you know, this show is not going to change. You will still get the show every month or every Friday. It'll be the same quality. You know, this is just if you want a little bit extra.
So
I think I've yacked enough. Maureen, what are we talking about today?
Well, today we're talking about the Miyazawa Family Murders. This is such a bizarre, weird story. This takes place in December of 2000. This takes place in Setagaya, which is a suburb of Tokyo.
We're going to a part of the world we haven't covered yet.
I know. I'm very excited. And if there's anything that because this is our first Japanese topic,
right.
If there's anything I mess up in terms of the words or the culture, feel free to let me know.
Sure.
Sure.
Obviously, as we always say, blanket statement, anything mispronounced is not out of disrespect. We just don't know how to properly say certain things, and we apologize beforehand.
So, the Miyazawa family consisted of 4 people. The dad, Mikio, the mom, Yasuko, the daughter, Nina, who was 8 years old, and the son, Ray, who was 6 years old.
I mean, they seem like a lovely family. Photos you see, they seem like the sweetest.
Oh my
family.
God, the kids are so cute.
Yeah, they are.
They just seem like a very normal, happy family.
Yeah.
And the area that they lived in was very, very strange because when they moved in, it was kind of this like flourishing development type area where lots of new families were moving in. Like it was a really nice area, kind of like a nice like up and coming spot. But by the year 2000, when this takes place, that was not the case anymore.
Uh-oh.
At this point, there were only 4 households in this whole development. It was largely, not necessarily abandoned, but no one really was moving in.
That's
Many
interesting.
people have moved out. One thing is there was a skate park right behind the Miyazawa family home. And apparently the people in the town fucking hated this goddamn skate park.
Listen, we're talking the year 2000.
Yeah.
Tony Hawk fever is at its peak.
I mean, I guess so.
Tony
and people
Hawk
were
fever.
worried, I guess.
I mean, so all of a sudden, these cargo short, Billabong wearing motherfuckers roll in with their skateboards.
That's right.
Sex waxed,
Yeah.
moving up their boards to slide down poles.
Yeah, that's right.
Sound like real ruffians.
And so much so that most of the neighborhood moved out. And the Miyazawa family themselves were moving out. They were moving out in March. I just remembered that another part of this was that the skate park was just about to go through like a big expansion. So it was going to get even bigger and going to be louder and, you know, all of that. So I think that's another reason why a lot of people had moved out.
Those goddamn skater punks.
Exactly. But recently, some very weird things had been happening. That is fucked up, and I do understand why people were worried about this.
Okay.
There had been animals found in the area, like tortured and mutilated. And I'm not totally sure if they were like squirrels or if they were, you know, pets. Like they found dead animals hanging from trees with their tails cut off.
Oh, this sounds a little bit more, but I'm getting little, remember in the beginning of the Perrin family story?
Yes.
A bunch of dickhead kids hurting animals.
Yes, it is just like that. So these animals weren't always found directly on the Miyazawa property or anything like that.
Right.
It definitely wasn't something that was like a threat to them. It was just happening in the area.
Right.
So that was something that is of genuine concern, not just like skaters are here. Like that is terrible. But it wasn't clear that it was really directed at anyone like specifically. Right. About a week before the incident occurred, Mikio, the father, he actually went to the skate park to confront these skaters because I guess they were being really loud and obnoxious. And you know, he does have 2 young kids. And as I'm sure you could assume, it didn't go well. It's not like these skaters were like, "Oh, sorry, sir, we'll be quiet." They were fucking pissed. And I think they got into a somewhat intense argument, it seems. Not necessarily physical, but very heated, I believe. Also, something important to note about the location and their house is that Yasuko's mom, sister, and brother-in-law actually lived in the house next door.
Okay.
And it wasn't even just next door. It's kind of a strange layout to me where it's like the house, it's kind of like a townhouse situation where like you share a wall, but the units are in no way connected.
But both were occupied by the same family.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Yasuko's family lived there, but recently Yasuko had also noticed there were just cars parked outside of their house a lot. And there was ample parking everywhere. And there was really no reason for anyone to even really be there other than the skaters.
Right.
So she thought it was strange that cars kept being parked like directly in front of their house. And
interesting.
She noticed it so much that she even mentioned it to her mom. How she thought that was very weird. So on December 30th, this is the day of the incident, the Miyazawa family goes out at about 6 p.m. to go shopping. They were preparing for their New Year's Day celebration in, 2 days.
Right.
Apparently New Year's Day is apparently in Japan, New Year's Day is more than it is in America, where it's basically just we're hungover and eating a brunch. It's more of like a family time, and it's a time of a new beginning, and it sounds really great, actually.
Right.
Which makes it so sad that this happened to them at this time of year.
Right.
But that's why they went out shopping. They went out to get some things to prepare for their celebrations, and they returned home at about 7 p.m. And around then, Yasuko, the mom, calls her mom, who lives next door, and asks if Nina can go over and hang out there for a little bit.
Right.
I guess Nina just wanted to hang out with her grandma.
Yeah.
So Nina went next door, they watched TV for a little while, and then she came back like around 9:30. The last thing that we know is that Mikio, the dad, accessed his password-protected email at 10:38 p.m. It is widely believed that at this time, everyone was still home and fine. And later, someone who was just walking past the house said that at around 10 p.m., they heard raised voices. And another person came forward and said that they saw a suspicious person quickly hurrying down a path near the Miyazawa home.
Okay.
So those are just interesting little clues.
So this is what was gathered, I'm assuming, after from police.
Yes.
So around this time is when people started to we heard something. Or we
Exactly.
Okay.
This person who said they heard some raised voices around 10 p.m. because Mikio had logged onto his email account at 10:38. I think that was probably unrelated,
Right.
When you got kids and it's bedtime, people are
Right.
So if this person outside heard raised voices, it could just be, a little bit of we're yelling at our kids for a second, these things happen. So that one I don't think, at least to me, it doesn't seem like that's related, but this suspicious person hurrying down a path that late at night, and keep in mind, it gets cold in Japan. It's late December. People aren't just going to be out for a walk,
right? And that's true. And you also, it's hard to say what is useful, because who knows? Maybe that person hurrying away was involved.
Yeah.
Or maybe when say if we were questioned last night, there was a murder, and I remembered walking the dog and seeing someone I didn't know kind of hurrying away.
Right.
If it wasn't for the murder the next day, I wouldn't have thought.
Exactly.
Suddenly someone who's just minding their own business could seem like a suspicious person.
Exactly. And also you want to help, so you're kind of
so you call everything. It doesn't necessarily mean that person. You want to give anything that's
exactly
helpful.
Yasuko's family, the ones that live next door, her mom and sister, brother-in-law, they heard a bang at 11:30 p.m.
Okay.
Sometime around there. They heard a bang in the Miyazawa side of the house.
Okay.
And they didn't really think much of it. It wasn't a bang like a gunshot. So they did notice that, but they didn't really think that much of it. But I think the only reason they even were able to remember that it happened at around that time was because of what TV show they were watching.
Right.
So it was one of those things that at the time they didn't really think anything of it. The next morning, Yasuko's mom is calling Yasuko, or calling them next door.
Right.
And the Miyazawa's phone line is cut. So she can't even get in touch. So she thinks that's weird. She goes next door, she knocks on the door, rings the doorbell. No, she doesn't get an answer.
Interesting.
And this is the grandma who lives next door. So Yasuko's mom has her own key, obviously. And because no one answered the door, she's worried. So she gets her key and she opens the door. And she sees Mikio, her son-in-law, dead at the bottom of the stairs. I can't even imagine what that must have been like for her. That's so sad and horrifying. So Mikio, as I said, was found dead at the bottom of the stairs of the first floor with stab wounds. On the second floor, Ray was found strangled in his bedroom, the 6-year-old boy. And Nina and Yasuko, the mom and daughter, they were found dead with a ton of stab wounds. They were brutally murdered. And they were found also on the second floor, but at the bottom of this ladder. They kind of had a ladder on that went up to a third floor, little loft area.
Okay.
So they were found dead on the second floor at the bottom of this ladder that went up to a loft.
Right.
And in that loft, I think there was a futon and maybe a chair. It was just kind of a little hangout area, fun, cool area up there. The second floor bathroom window was broken and the screen was cut.
Probably the method of entry.
That's how the person got in. But to get in there, you kind of had to go along this chain link fence and then climb up. It would have been hard to do. So whoever did this was in good shape. So this is what we believe happened due to the evidence and where the bodies were found. So it sounds like the perpetrator entered through the second floor bathroom window, and that probably would have made some noise. So that probably woke up Ray, the son. So when the intruder came in, he went straight into Ray's room and strangled him because he wanted to keep him as quiet as possible.
Right.
But there must have still been some kind of a struggle that was making noise. So Mikio goes upstairs to see what's going on, and then the intruder starts stabbing Mikio.
Right.
And Mikio was stabbed with a good sashimi knife.
Oh, wow.
And just going back a little bit, I think the day before, there was a skater, I guess, was seen in the area buying a sashimi knife. This could be unrelated, but you're looking for anything.
You're looking for anything. You already know that there's a thing against skaters, and then there's this idea that skaters are bad, and then you add to a sashimi knife. Well, if there's skaters in the area and one's it's one of those. Yeah, technically that could be that person, but it could also just be a skater buying a sashimi knife. It seems like a case of this person's fitting the profile of who you assume did this.
Exactly.
So yeah, that one's a hard call.
So he was stabbing Mikio with this sashimi knife. And I'm not sure if they started the fight upstairs and then they fell downstairs, or if they maybe got chased downstairs and the fight was downstairs. That I'm not sure, but the sashimi knife actually broke off in Mikio's head. Then he takes off the remainder of the knife that he can, and he goes upstairs and he starts attacking Yasuko and Nina. It is thought that probably at this time they had heard all of what was going on.
Right. But
so
they probably couldn't really get downstairs because he's down there.
He's down there, so it seems like they were probably hiding.
Maybe they were trying to get to that little loft to hide.
Yes, exactly.
That's what it sounds like.
He goes up there and he starts stabbing them with this broken sashimi knife.
Oh.
But, it's not really working. Or, I mean, obviously it's working.
It's working, but
not to the degree he wants.
Right.
He leaves and goes downstairs. And it's not clear exactly how long he was down there for or whatever, but it seems like he wasn't rushing because Yasuko and Nina had enough time to get the first aid kit and start to treat some of Nina's wounds.
Right.
It's not sure where they were exactly at this time. They probably were hiding again somewhere. Also, remember, I had mentioned this before, the phone lines were cut. Like I said before, the next morning that the phone lines were cut, they had been cut at this point too.
Right.
So they didn't really know how to get help. And maybe they called out for help to, the family living next door and they just didn't hear them.
Right.
Or maybe they didn't want to be too loud. I don't
Right.
really know. Now, we know that Nina and Yasuko had some time away from the intruder because Nina's blood was on the first aid kit and Nina's blood was also found on that futon up in that third floor loft. So they were trying to treat the wounds, but then the intruder went to the kitchen and found another knife, just kind of like a multi-purpose kitchen knife. And he came back up and he got them. It sounds like they probably went up to that third floor loft and they tried to lift the ladder so he couldn't get up there, but something didn't work.
Yeah.
Don't know exactly what that was.
Right. Who knows what state they were in, if they were even able to.
Maybe the ladder was really heavy. I don't really know.
Right. And if they're losing blood. Right. Because we don't know. We know they're hurt. We don't know right. So they might be in a position where they can't do much.
Exactly. So since Yasuko and Nina were found at the bottom of this ladder, it is thought that that was the sound, the thud or the bang that the neighbors, that the grandmother and the sister or the aunt heard next door.
Maybe they fell from the...
They heard them either falling from that loft or it was the sound of the intruder pulling the ladder back down. So it was either them coming down or the ladder coming back down and hitting the ground.
Do they think it could have been when Mikio presumably fell down the stairs?
Right. I'm not sure why they don't think that, but all the sources I read said it must have just been the time. I'm sure if you were to look at the actual
forensic note, it would make sense. Why not?
Something about the timeline wouldn't make sense or something. So it is assumed that the time of death was about 11:30. It obviously wasn't the exact same for everyone, but around 11:30. But the killer actually got very injured as well in the process. I think especially from Mikio. Mikio was probably really fighting back very hard. The killer's blood was all over. And the killer actually tried to treat his own wounds too with that first aid kit. His blood was found on the first aid kit too. And he also was using pads, like sanitary pads that you use when you're on your period.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he was using those too, which actually it makes a lot, it's like that's what they're made for.
So we're establishing his DNA is all over this place.
In his fingerprints, everything.
Which is probably what you wouldn't want.
Exactly.
Oh, so he wasn't even wearing gloves or something?
No. This is where it's going to get strange.
Okay.
This man, I'm assuming man, was in no hurry, clearly, because he took his time to get this knife and everything.
Okay.
And was not really worried about being caught. Not worried at all about leaving blood around. Because he just left, the pads, once they absorbed all the blood that they could, he just left them around. He didn't even, try to clean it. You know what I mean? He, did not care.
I'm getting Hinterkaifeck vibes.
Yes.
Creep Street, if you haven't, one of our early episodes, Death at Hinterkaifeck, it's creepy, it's fascinating. Go back and listen to that if you haven't.
Yeah. The killer hung around until the next morning. He ate some melon and barley tea and ice cream. They found the individual ice cream cups in the living room and in this study office area.
Oh my God.
He was not worried at all. He had logged on to their computer onto the internet. He went through all of their like browser history and just kind of clicked around to see what he could see. And he even tried to buy tickets for something. I don't know if it was like a concert or a play.
Wasn't it like
or
a play?
something.
Yeah, it was like
yeah.
It was for theaters.
Yeah, yeah. But he tried to do it. It didn't work because he didn't have their like credit card.
Right.
So he was on the computer for like 4 minutes because, you can see,
Right.
Yeah, because they could see the time like, oh, no, the family had been dead by then. He also took a shit in the toilet and didn't flush, which is like why?
Well, it seems like this person wants to be caught.
It's so weird because you also, this is like so gross, but you can like do DNA testing on shit too. He's almost taunting them or whatever. And this is interesting. I didn't even really think much of this until a couple of YouTube videos I watched had mentioned it, that there were shoe prints all over the house.
Right.
And how that's just so disrespectful in Japan.
Oh,
I'd never really thought about that. But, at the same time, you're like, well, obviously this person doesn't respect them. He just killed the whole family.
Right. Why that extra statement?
Right. I understand why keeping the shoes on while
he's
it's
probably not
happening.
thinking I'm going to take my shoes off while I murder this
right.
family.
But after he murdered them, it is kind of interesting that he kept his shoes on.
Interesting. Yeah.
I guess. That's just what I've heard other people say, and I thought that was cool and worth mentioning. But
right.
I've never been to Japan, so I don't really know. But if you know, let me know. Oh yeah, he also had like pulled together a lot of their bills and like documents and driver's licenses and things like that. He'd like organized them in some way in the living room and then also in the second floor bathroom, like in the bathtub.
That's weird.
Which is so like, why? But he also left some of his own things there. He left his jacket, he left a hat, gloves, a sweater, the broken sashimi knife, and a bag. He just like had left so much of his stuff there, which is so weird. And I think the only thing that was missing was some money and one coat.
Yeah, because it's like if there was clearly shit to if this was motivated by money or motivated by just I need say someone with a drug problem, I need this to pawn this shit.
Right.
You'd think they'd be ransacking the place.
Yeah, they'd be taking the computer.
Which then makes you wonder, like, how much did they say how much the money they took?
Yeah, it was I think 150,000 yen, which is not that much money.
I don't think that comes to a lot.
I think it's like $1,000.
Which I mean, hey, we all like an extra grand, but it's like
it's not. That's why I do not think this was motivated by money.
Yeah, they wouldn't have stopped with 1,000.
I feel like they did it for other reasons, and then they found the money, and they're like, might as well.
$1,000, why not?
Yeah.
Or we assume 1,000. We don't know the direct.
Right, I'm
what it would have come out to in America, but we're just saying it's not like it was money worth killing for.
Exactly. Now let's talk about who this person is who committed these murders, who this person might have been, and what's true about them, what's not true about them, because all of the things that this person left really, really tells a story. These are not just like little things they're like, oh, these are so kind of like vague and could be anyone.
Right.
It's like, first of all, we have so much of this guy's DNA. Anyway, so one thing that is very interesting, I think, is that one of the sweaters that he left there was actually a pretty rare sweater. It was sold in Tokyo, and only, I think, 130 of them were ever sold.
So he's leaving like his own like just his
Yeah.
stuff. Like, wow.
Yes, I don't know why. I really have no idea why. But because only 130 were sold, they were actually able to contact a few of the people that bought these sweaters, and they were all dismissed. They weren't considered to be suspects. It's just unfortunate that they weren't able to get in touch with everyone that bought these sweaters, because I'm sure some people bought them with cash or whatever.
And I guess that cancels out the drug theory, because it's like, if that person was desperate for drugs, why wouldn't they just sell some of their shit?
Right, some of their own things. In his bag, there was some sand. Now, this might sound just like, okay, who cares? There's some sand in the bag. No. Sand is very, very particular and specific. And if there's a certain kind of sand, you can tell where it's from. And the sand that was in this person's bag was from the Nevada desert in California.
What?
Yeah, right by a U.S. air base, the Edwards Air Force Base in California.
Oh.
That is where the sand came from.
I had never heard this.
Isn't that crazy?
Holy shit.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things, who knows what it could mean, but oh my God.
Well, because, he could have bought that secondhand and maybe there was still some stuff in it or there's still some sand in it or he borrowed it from a friend. But it's just as likely that it's his.
Right. Does that mean he had the means to just travel, visit California, come back? It's like, was it someone from?
Well, you also got to wonder, is this person military? Because it was from an Air Force base. Oh. Or right by an Air Force base, at least.
I had never thought about that.
So, but the thing about that doesn't seem quite right is that if they were military, they would probably have their fingerprints and stuff.
Exactly. Unless you didn't. Well, I mean, like, and what is the Miyazawa? What did they do? Like, were they in any way related to?
No.
That's tough because it's like, are we just forcing dots to connect? But yeah, that's just so, because I love it. It's like Somerton Man in that you think you can start to assemble a puzzle, but then there's a piece that came from like a different puzzle.
Right.
That just doesn't fit in anywhere.
Yeah, totally. And it makes you wonder, you're like, okay, so like, what is that?
Exactly.
What does that mean? But remember, there was a lot of his blood left at the scene. And this is why I'm saying he, because of the blood. Now, what's interesting is that we can tell from this person's paternal side that his father was East Asian.
Okay.
So it is thought that his dad was either Japanese, Chinese, or Korean.
Okay.
But on his mother's side, he was Southern European, which is also interesting. Makes you think maybe this person, it's just so interesting. It all has to do with genes. Like maybe this person takes more after his father, so he appears to be more Japanese, and so he doesn't stand out as much, whereas maybe he might look more white.
Right.
And maybe that would make him stand out more in Tokyo.
That's interesting.
But it's not totally clear. And the reason I bring this up is because on December 31st, the day after, a man got into, I think you call it Tameniku. I'm sure I'm saying that wrong. I'm so sorry. It's a train station.
Okay.
About 75 miles north of where the Miyazawa family lived.
Okay.
And the staff there was actually treating a man with stab wounds. And some of the wounds were so deep they went down to the bone. And so they were treating this man at the train station. By the way, this could not be more different than the train stations in Chicago.
Right.
If you showed up to show them a stab wound, they'd show you theirs, okay?
Yeah.
Anyway, they thought that this man was acting suspicious. He didn't really say much. He didn't tell them his name. He didn't tell them how he got the injuries. He was just really quiet, and they thought he was weird. So they didn't really need to tell anyone about that then.
Right.
But then once the people working at the train station found out about the Miyazawa murders, they came forward and told the police because they were like, this was very strange. Maybe this did happen. Also, due to whatever, size and a shape he would have to be to even enter the second floor bathroom window, and because of the wounds that were found on the Miyazawa family, it is thought that this person at the time was anywhere between like late teens to mid 30s and was kind of like a slim build, not like wildly slim, but that's kind of what they thought. Some people think that maybe this was like a contract killing. I don't think so, because this is incredibly sloppy, and the person stuck around.
Yeah, there would have to be things about the Miyazawa family we don't know.
And and there's nothing like that has
they seem
been
like a
found.
Like a everyday class
Totally
family.
normally.
Like they don't.
Normal,
Yeah.
So I don't really think it's that. Another thought is maybe it was one of those skaters that Mikio got in a fight with.
Oh yeah.
This does seem kind of intense, though.
It
you know what I
like
mean?
It's what happened to egg in houses?
Yeah, this
what
just seems like
what happened to throwing toilet paper in the trees?
Yeah, like what do you mean? What I mean? Like brutally murdering a whole goddamn family.
Yeah,
like that.
What
just
happened
seems
to lighting
weird.
some dog shit and leaving it on the porch?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? What happened
Good
to
classic fun. Honestly, though, and that's kind of a favor because everyone's needs to be taken down a notch every now and then. Every now and then, you need to stomp on a bag and get dog shit on your foot.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what makes me think like maybe it's one of these skaters that just got pissed at them, but like that seems insane. And what I'm kind of left with is I'm guessing that this was just kind of like a random thing. This was just a killer that wanted to kill and just picked a family and watched them. And I guess, but it's like, it worked, but like, why would you take the risk and pick a family that had family like sharing a wall? You know what I mean? That had the grandmother and the aunt and the uncle living next door.
Exactly.
And it's also just the fact that this person stayed for so long, because this person might have left as early as 1 or 2 a.m.
Right.
But this person might have also stayed until like 10 a.m. because the internet or the like computer like dinged on again at 10 a.m. or
Really?
something. But that could have maybe been like a false something.
Right.
But it's definitely possible that he stayed until like the morning when it was light out.
That's
and everything.
wild.
So I don't really know who this could have been, and that's why it makes me think it was just someone random. But it seems like this person, if they did it randomly, it seems like they definitely had a need to kill. And if they had a need to kill, you would think they would have done it before or again. The blood or DNA has never even come up in the system again since then.
Well, was this person just not in any fucking database?
No, none.
So we got a little Somerton man.
Exactly.
A little Somerton man mixed in.
I didn't really realize how this one really connects with so many of our previous episodes, but it does.
Yeah.
That's what's weird, is that this case is still open. This is one of the biggest murder cases ever in Tokyo.
Yeah.
Or in the Tokyo area.
Right.
Yeah, so
and I'm sure it was probably a media sensation in Japan.
Exactly, a media sensation for sure. And I think, if I'm reading this correctly, since the investigation started, there have been about 245,000 investigators working on it.
Wow.
And over 12,000 pieces of evidence.
Jesus.
I mean, they are working hard as hell. Last thing here I got from Wikipedia, so I'm not 100% sure if this is true, but it sounds like in 2019, they added 35 more police officers to the case.
So this is something...
It's an open... They're still trying to figure this out. So
they are still like busting balls on this thing.
Yeah.
Like, they're not...
No, they're like actively working on this still.
They're like, wow.
And I guess every single year, the Tokyo Police Department goes there to like pay homage and have a memorial.
Right. Oh.
Isn't that nice?
That is very sweet.
I've never heard of anything like that.
Never heard. That is wild.
This story is weird and it is not solved. I'm glad that the Tokyo TMPD is still working on it.
Absolutely.
I hope that they get some more info, because I want to know who did this, because this is fucking strange.
It is. And I'm glad we finally got to this part of the world for
I
stories.
know. While learning about this case, I've kind of just stumbled across some lore and spooky tales from Japan.
Absolutely.
And I'm just so excited to
learn
back, more about this.
We'll return to Japan. Probably maybe next month we'll return with another Japan.
I'd love that.
Japan legend.
I want to go to Japan so bad.
Absolutely. All right. Well, once again, big thank you to our Patreon supporters, James and Via.
Thank you so much. If you're interested in joining us on the Patreon, please feel free. But remember, no pressure. Just thank you for listening. And if you have a moment, tell a friend.
Tell a friend. That's, tell friends, hit us with good reviews, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And
I guess let's just wrap her up.
Maureen, thank you for an excellent episode.
You know what? Thank you for just being you.
Citizens of the Milky Way, this is Creep Street. Good night and goodbye.